Good day everyone, Dr. Polaris here. During the Middle Oligocene, the titanosaur savannah biome continued to spread out across Eurasia, stretching from Bulgaria in the west to the ancient East China Sea. This was one of the largest contiguous terrestrial ecosystems of the Cenozoic. The steppe savannah, as its name suggests, was comprised of wooded open forest of mixed conifers and broadleaf trees, interspersed by large tracts of semi-arid shrub. The most common elements of the paleoflora here were the low-growing herbs and xeric shrubs, accompanied by C3 grasses. In all, this environment was rather similar to modern East Africa or the southwestern United States. As this biome was so extensive, animal faunas native to this area tended to be rather homogeneous. Single genera possessed massive ranges, giving rise to multiple species. A noteworthy exemplar of this particular time period is the well-studied Aral Formation of Kazakhstan. Fossil finds recovered from the Kumbalak cliffs have revealed a locality home to a typical cross-section of Oligocene Eurasian animals, including Aleorhamoid tyrannosaurs, ceratopsians, and multituberculates. However, the most impressive members of this faunal assemblage were the titanosaurs. One species stood above the rest, Baluchitherium gigas. This enormous 30-metre sauropod was likely a descendant of the earlier and smaller Baluchitherium chapmani from the early Eocene of Mongolia. With an estimated weight of 75 to 85 tons, B. gigas was one of the largest terrestrial animals ever found, although, unlike other massive titanosaurs, remains of this animal were surprisingly common. Fossil remains attributed to the species have been described from China, Mongolia, Kazakhstan and Pakistan, while the closely related Baluchitherium yakovi dwelt in Bulgaria, Romania and Turkey. Living alongside this browsing giant was a much more modestly sized titanosaur, Bratmanosaurus aralensis. This species measured roughly 15 to 18 metres in length and appears to have been heavily armoured, similar to other Asian aeolosaurids. This was most likely a means of defence against abelisaur predation. Aeolosaurids, and in particular the Keralosaurines, were successful medium-sized browsers, traversing the open savannas in herds and eventually outlived their titanotarsine cousins by surviving into the early Miocene. Other herbivorous dinosaurs were also common at the site. Marginocephalians were the most numerous, with ceratopsians, dorsodontids and bugtisaurids. Ceratopsians range from the bulky horned neoceratopsians to the small and omnivorous hippogryphoidians. The former came in with a roll call of 4 genera of low-browsing herbivores, each with unique and extensive cranial ornamentation. Representatives of both modern Neoceratopsian families, the Carchadanids and the Sylviceratopsids, had appeared by this time, as well as several now extinct groups. Hippogryphoidians consisted of the semi-fossorial 1 to 2 metre Hystrichosaurids that were adapted for chewing tough vegetation, and the oldest members of Gryphosauridae. These were among the most novel evolutionary developments of the Oligocene. A group of formerly herbivorous/omnivorous ornithischians transitioning to a more carnivorous diet. Modern Gryphosaurids are stocky, heavy-set carnivores with powerful bolt-cutter jaws and slicing batteries of teeth. However, the earliest representatives of the group were far more innocuous, resembling heterodontosaurids with more massive skulls and well-developed forelimbs inherited from their digging ancestors. It is still not known what exactly triggered this shift in ecology, but it may have something to do with the extreme shifting climate conditions of the Oligocene and a dearth of competition from small theropods. Lopatinoceratops from Kumbalak was the oldest and most basal genus of Gryphosaurid, measuring only 2 metres long. Known from a specimen consisting of a decent portion of the animal's forequarters, it has been suggested that this omnivorous creature was a capable climber and supplemented its mostly plant-based diet with insects, lizards, small mammals and carrion. Xiphosaurids continue to inhabit the cursorial browser/grazer niche, flourishing in the drier and more open conditions of the Oligocene. Unlike some of their more modern descendants, Oligocene Zososaurids were fairly small animals, between 2 to 4 metres long, and lived in large social groups as a defence against predators. Aside from their elongated hind limbs and atrophied forelimbs, the most visible identifying trait of Zososaurids were their cranial horns. Each genus possessed a unique horn formed from an extension of the frontal and prefrontal bones of the skull. This trait is reminiscent of the development of horns in bovids from our Earth, and their function was similar, for defence and species recognition. The representative of this group at the Kumbelak site was Maricosaurus emerii, a 3-metre-long cursorial mixed browser/grazer with a backward curving frontal horn. After the Grand Coupre extinction at the beginning of the period, Eurasian hadrosaurs had their range and diversity cut rather dramatically. At the end of the Eocene, at least 5 lineages of these dinosaurs roamed the continent, but by the Middle Oligocene, this number had been reduced to just 2 subfamilies, the Pathanosaurines and the Chigilophines. Both of these animals were absent from Kazakhstan, being native to the subtropical forests of India and Southeast Asia. In truth, while faring better than their ceratopsid contemporaries, Eurasian hadrosaurs never really recovered. Hadrosaur diversity remained low in Asia throughout the Oligocene and Miocene, as in effect they had been replaced by the upstart ankylotarsiforms. The survivors seem to have adapted to heavily forested mountainous environments, and as such escape frequent notice in the fossil record. In modern times, descendants of these Oligocene animals are native to the remote jungles and mountain valleys of Southeast Asia. Only 3 genera remain, all of which are rather small and cryptic when compared to their large ancestors. Indeed, they are more often heard than seen, with their loud trumpeting calls carrying for miles in the steamy forest air. As yet, there have been no definitive remains of theropod dinosaurs recovered from this particular locale, aside from a smattering of teeth. These clearly belong to an abelisaur of some description, although we are not certain of the specific genus. Judging from other fossil-bearing localities of a similar age, the Kumbelak fossil teeth may have come from a species of Chingisaurus, a 9-metre abelisaur from China and Mongolia. This is far from certain, however. Given the fact that this site was first excavated only recently, it would not be surprising if future digs reveal evidence of Boreoraptorine dromaeosaurs, Alioramoid tyrannosaurs, Oviraptorosaurs and Troodontans. All these groups were present in Asia during the Middle Oligocene, and their absence here is due to poor taxonomic sampling. Aside from non-avian dinosaurs, it was the mammals that provided us with a diverse faunal assemblage at Kumbelak. As ever, the most numerous mammals here were the multituberculates. The tiny mouse-like viridiomyids and the jerboa-like allozapids were very common, elucidated by a vast number of dental fossils ascribed to these groups. Taniolaboids and Jatochgotheres inhabited groundhog, marmot and hamster-like niches, digging and burrowing beneath the open shrubland and eating seeds, tubers and grasses. There were many other mammal groups present as well, including carnivorous acerictid metatherians and a wide assemblage of eutherians. Many of these were non-placentals, in particular the elephant shrew-like zolamdalestoids, the herbivorous zolestids, and the hyrax-like glirungulatans. True placentals were also starting to become more common components of Asian faunal communities at the time, spearheaded by the tylosauroids. These small terrestrial omnivores were, and still are, basal members of Boreoeutheria, and demonstrate characteristics of both Laurasiatherians and Euarchontiglias. Although their earlier Paleogene ancestors were rare arboreal generalists similar to tree shrews, tylosauroids were more comparable to hedgehogs, moon rats, or even bandicoots. Clearly, the opening of Asia's forest ecosystems did wonders for this group, as they are the second most numerous mammals at Kumbelak after the multituberculates. Further to the south, in the forests of India and Southeast Asia, the first representatives of another Boreoeutherian group, the mellivorans, were developing, but more on them another time. If we now move on to the reptiles, 3 squamate genera were native to the site. All of them were lizards, including an anguid, a polyglyphanodontian, and a small skinkomorph. The anguid, Yevgeniglossus, was a legless burrowing insectivore roughly 25 centimetres long, with teeth adapted for crushing the hard shells of arthropods such as beetles. The skinkomorph, Agnotoxanthus, a member of the extinct family Xenoxanthidae, was also insectivorous but fed on much smaller prey. On the other hand, the polyglyphanodontian Vasilianisaurus was a devoted herbivore, not unlike some modern teiids. Its skull was robust and blunt, with an accompaniment of file-like teeth for slicing through tough vegetation. In addition to these squamates, one other sauropsid genus has been recovered from the site, the asdarchoid Aralodraco. Only known from a single partial, badly damaged skull, this pterosaur is estimated to have had a wingspan of about 5 metres and to have stood as tall as a man. The beak appears to have been elongated, narrow and spear-like, useful for seizing lizards, small mammals and baby dinosaurs. Unlike some of the more bizarre Eocene asdarchoids, Aralodraco was a fundamentally more basal-looking animal, strongly resembling late Cretaceous taxa in appearance and lifestyle. This genus is the second oldest zoelantid, a group of terrestrial, moderately sized asdarchoids with a near-global distribution in modern times. Thanks for watching, everyone. Next week I'll be going back to the Triassic to cover the bizarre Tanystrophiids. See you again soon. Cheerio.